So just launch that, double click on that. And it'll ask you for updates. You can just say yes or no. Yes is fine. No. So actually, the no means yes and no.
Yes, means no.
Question that they ask. They basically ask, do you want it to stop getting updates? And you have to say no to allow it to get updates. But anyway, so that's fine. So in here you have, the reason this is so nice for the kids is just a graphical interface. So you have inputs, outputs, and then flow control. So any of you all are programmers or done any programming? Okay. So inputs are basically things that you listen for. So a nice little game, I just play Simon Says with the kids for that, like the first thing, introducing programming. Basically to get them in touch with the idea that all the robot does is what you tell it to do. So I just walk around the class and ask them, okay, give me commands to walk around the desk. And they shout out commands like Simon Says, and I go, and if they don't tell me stop, I walk into the wall just to demonstrate to them that's what the robot will do. If you forget to tell it when to stop, it'll just keep going. If you tell it to turn, and it just keeps turning until you tell it to do something else. So it's just a nice way of them getting in the frame of mind and say, oh, okay, I could do that. So the inputs on the CEENBot, you have two main inputs on these. You have switches here, which is switch 1, 2, actually they start on 3, 4, and 5. And then in the front here, you have these proximity detectors. So basically when it gets close to something, it'll turn on, and you'll see the light, the LED above it just flash. That means it's detecting that it's close to something. So those are the main inputs you see of your proximity and switches. And then the outputs are what you want to do with it once you decide to do something. So an output is a delay, so it'll be waiting for a command or waiting for a switch. That's a delay. The I/O, we're not going to use that because that's a little advanced. Even for me, I haven't played a lot with that. But it allows you to send signals out to an external device if you have something else. So you could have on the breadboard here, this is called a breadboard. You could plug in little diodes and stuff you could buy at Radio Shack or hobby stores, and you could light those up with the inputs and outputs if you want. But that's a little too advanced, at least for me right now. So, the move is the main one you're going to use. And what the move does is really driving signals to these motors to turn the wheels. So it's basically move the robot, and we'll show you that. And then it could play sounds. You have LED lights, which are on the panel. You have some lights up here that will turn on and off. So that's the LED lights. And then a display is on this here. You have 3 lines of text you could write on here. So where that helps is when you start writing programs, if you want to help figure out where in the program you might be getting stuck, you could just put a display box in there. So if it's doing something weird, you could look at it and say, oh, I got to that step in my program, okay. And then you know how to figure out maybe what next to do. So display is just a way to put commands on their comments. And then comments add comments to your program. So you could kind of make notes to yourself to figure out what you're doing. And then branch and loop, we'll talk a little bit about those. Branch is like an if statement. So you want to say check the switch, and if the switch is turned on, I want you to do this. If it's not turned on, I want you to do something else. So that's all the branch is. It's telling you if you find something, do it. If not, do something else. And then the loop just means keep checking all these commands until I tell you to stop. So let's do a simple program. So you'll always start with a start. When you open up the module, it'll have a start there. So what we want to do first is just to do something as simple as check for a switch. So we click on the switch, hold it down, and drag it over here. And you should see the box come over. Everybody got that? So the nice thing also on this lower box here, you could stretch this box or make it shorter. But you have, for each box that you select, you have what it commands over here. So this just says you have a variable, which is a placeholder for a number. And with the switches, it's either 1 or 0. It's either pressed or not pressed. And it says which switch do you want to control, switch 3, 4, or 5. So as I said, on the robot, the leftmost one is 3, then you have 4 and 5. And if you want a description, if you click on the tab on the bottom here, for each of the commands or each of the boxes, there's a little description telling you what you can do with those boxes. So you could read that more about the switch being true or false, and it's a trigger, and what the variable does, and gives you more detail there. So to get these blocks to work, you have to snap them together. So you drag it up to the start, and you see a little blue line, and you'd hear a click if your sound is put on. Mr. Orange, you're programming.
Oh, I am. Oh, my word.
I gotta get a picture
I
of
cannot
this.
sleep tonight.
He's gonna be hearing clicks in his dreams.
Really, this is the first time in 3 years I've actually done anything like this.
So now we want to say, if you hear a switch, let's just do a sound. So let's drag the sound over, and then go back to tool view and see what it says. Oh, you don't have sound? Ah, okay.
Yeah, we don't have sound.
Good that we run into this problem, because what happens when you do the initial setup, it gives you a limited set of blocks, because it tries to not put everything there, because it doesn't want to overwhelm the kids when they first start. But for us, what we're going to do, you're going to do into File, and then Options, and you go to Tools, and you would see there's a lot more on the left than there is on the right. So scroll down on the left to Sound, click on it, and click Add. Everybody find that? And there's all the other stuff too. You could add all the stuff if you want eventually, but sound is what we need right now. So just add that, and see if it shows up in your
Whoa.
toolkit.
I'm overwhelmed.
You're going to be drawing blocks in your sleep.
This is.
All right. So let's just put that here. Switch. If I see a switch, make a sound. So you would think that would work. So let's test it and see what happens. So what you do, you'd have to, for programming, you build a program on the laptop, on the computer. You have to now download that program or send that program to the robot. So you plug this in. There's a USB plug on this side, and this has a little slot.
And we have 2 of these right now.
And you can see.
Do you want
Yeah,
yours?
2.
This is yours over here.
Yeah, we could use this. You can see here, there's a connector with a slot here on the side. So that's where you plug it in. And you want to keep them in these containers when you're doing the programming, because they tend to run away. Because sometimes you put a program in and you don't realize what you did, and the wheels just start going, and you have a broken robot.
Now, in addition to that, never let your kids turn the robot on and off on a table.
Right,
It has to be on the ground.
right. Or in the
because-
tub.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So to download, I'll turn it off and show you what happens. So you click this button here. This is build or compile the program and download it. So basically you click that, and this happens a lot. What it says is failed. Check to see if the program is connected to both the computer and the robot. Make sure the robot is turned on. Jump a cable, don't worry about that. That should never be a problem. So these are the 2 that I normally forget to do. Sometimes you want half of the cables, and usually it's because the robot is not turned on. No lights are on. So you turn the robot on, and you say, okay, let me try that again. And you go back and click, and it builds that.
What did he click?
The
Project?
lightning
Lightning
bolt
bolt with the arrow.
The arrow.
Lightning bolt. I
With the
can't.
green arrow.
Yeah, I'm not sure if
If
it's
you
showing
hover
up on
over it,
this.
it says build and upload project. So you all hear a little beep? Right, so it went through, it checked the switch, and it beeped, right? So it's not doing anything else. So what happened? It made one pass, and it's done. So what you have to remember is that this program just told it to do that. Check the switch, make a noise. It's done.
I don't understand the check a switch thing. I
Okay, so a
Does that
switch
mean
is
the
just
switch
like,
is switched, or?
a switch is like a light switch.
Right,
It's either on or off,
okay,
right?
so,
If it's on or off. If
Yeah,
it's on,
I'll-
it's true. If it's
I'll show
off,
you.
It's false.
Right,
One or zero. Okay.
Right,
This
Okay.
is
I
where
got
it's
it.
located.
okay.
I'll show you right here. Very,
no, I just didn't understand
Yeah, right here.
what it,
See, right now it's off, and then it's on. This little light. It has that little chirping sound.
but he's
That's what
saying it's
shows.
checking the switch, so.
Oh, just
but
on
do you-
his program right
Yes,
now.
on the, I don't understand what what it means, check the, because you said these three little things are switches,
Right.
but they're not.
Push on 3.
So
Oh,
what-
got it. You can push the button.
You can push the button.
They didn't look
right?
like buttons.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Got it, I get it.
So,
now.
yeah, just like a switch, it's just a push button switch
Got
is
it.
what it is.
I read it. Okay, so this is where you're actually putting.
Right.
This, this is.
So if that button was off, it
Right.
wouldn't
It
do
would-
anything.
It'll just pass through and say, oh, it's
Got it.
nothing to do.
I get it.
As soon as you push the button, it would make the sound if it was running that
program.
program.
Right.
Okay.
So now, what you really want to do when you build a program is
This is your switch.
have the computer continuously check for a condition, because you may not be right at the switch at the right time to press it, right? So that's what a loop does. So you just pull that apart, separate those blocks. Go over to loop, click on that, drag it over, and snap it up there.
You're going to loop and moving it in.
Yep. And then take these two blocks and try to insert it into the loop until the box in the loop highlights. Then put it in there.
Why isn't mine making, oh, that didn't work.
So let's try to download that and see what happens.
Mine sort of fell on top of it, but it didn't really.
So you see it keeps going round and round and finding that. Right?
Until you tell it to stop.
Right. So it's a little annoying you.
Very cool.
So one last thing is, suppose you wanted to say, if the switch is pressed, make a noise. If it's not pressed, do nothing. Okay? So that's where if statement, a branch comes in, right? So you pull the branch over,
Okay, pull a branch over.
and it says, check this variable called sample variable, which is the same variable that you saw on the switch, right? So if you go back to the switch, it's using that same variable name, sample variable.
You're
So,
moving the switch where?
so the first thing you want to say is, check the switch, right? And then if the switch is, let's drag that out. It's giving us trouble. So drag it, build it out here first. So check the switch, check that variable, and if the switch is true, make the noise. If it's false, don't do anything. Just keep looping around. Okay? So let's drag that into the loop box. Everybody has that?
Now you put, oh, where are you putting sound? Okay, got it. We're on the true
Under
side.
true,
All right.
yes.
So if you have another robot, yeah.